Sure.
Faz is back again.
Unfortunately, I mean, welcome back, Faz.
Yeah, I'm noticing that the shorts now have me in them more, because a lot of the shorts had you. I was thinking you were just favoring you, but you had what, 3 shows without me?
Listen, no. So this is, I can be a pain in the ass sometimes. We all know that.
You were just talking about how you could be.
Yeah, I'm not. What I'm not is a liar. And what I will tell you is I take the Opus shorts, they're graded. And it starts at, it's a scale of 100. And it goes, 99, 97. You get scored on all these things where they're the experts on virality and all that fun stuff. And I take the top 15 every week, and those are my shorts. So I'm not trying to slam you here, Faz. But if you're not in the top 15 very much, according to their algorithm or whatever it is they do, that's what I post.
The top 15 what?
It's ranked on a score of 100, and there's like 5 categories for virality, chance to go viral.
Oh, so if I
content,
say like a catchy viral line.
Yes. So it's trending and it's all that. So it does all that stuff in the background. It's like, what is that called? I used to have it. vidIQ. It's like the vidIQ
logo's
thing.
outdated, sir. Mr. Whatever your name is, person over here.
Mr. Zorro.
Yeah, Mr.
Interesting.
So anyway,
whatever your name it is.
And it ranks you on all those metrics, and it gives you a score out of 100. And there's never been a 100, but it's 99. And then I take it, it goes in order. There's probably 30 shorts for every show. I take the top 15 and I make those the shorts. So whatever the top 15 scores are for what it thinks is the best shorts for this show, that's what I post. And it's totally agnostic of who it is. It's the top 15. I grab them. So unfortunately, while you may talk more than us, according to their algorithm, which is Opus Pro, you may not fall in that top 15 all the time.
I don't say very topical things. I say deep and insightful things, which most people.
Well, now wait.
You have to tune in to hear.
Well, now wait, because it's funny that you bring that up, because everybody kind of showed up, just for the viewers here. Everybody showed up kind of a little bit late. Zorro had some technical issues and everything. We didn't have a chance to get like 10, 15 minutes of banter in before we went live. I was going to bring that up to you because I noticed the same thing. On the last show that we did, you showed up way more in that top 15 than ever before. So yes, you got more shorts this week. You got more shorts this week because you finished in the top 15 more.
I know why, because I was being more of a dick in the previous episode, and I could see you were definitely getting annoyed by it. But yeah, if we're dicks to each other, I'm sure the algo will love it.
Well, I don't think we were being dicks. I think we were both very passionate about the stance that we were taking. But if you notice, if you watch the shorts, Faz, you did say some very insightful things, and you had some comments that were very, very insightful for people who would want to learn about what we were talking about. So it does take that into account. It really does. And last bit, I did try. And you'll notice that the format of the shorts is different in some of them. I am using a different tool, that one that we talked about previously, to grab the shorts. And funny enough, they matched pretty well on both platforms that I got the shorts from. But I think they look way better with that bigger text coming from that second tool that we're starting to use. but it picked up on the same things that you said, and you were the top dog in those. When I had to create 10, I said create 10 of the best moments that people would find interesting from this episode, almost identically matched, and you finished way more than Zorro and I in that, except Zorro's scored better than yours, but that was the one that got dinged on TikTok.
So okay, that's interesting. So you guys on TikTok can't see this, but apparently Mr. Zorro said some really inflammatory stuff, but he actually didn't. So your shorts thing picked out, I don't know, something. Honestly, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Zorro, but it's kind of really laid back and sounded a little bit normal. But the language you used sounded, and I like to use this word, sounded like a dog whistle. And it was talking about, you're saying basically Congress is lying to us. The people are, people are unhappy, and you just need to use common sense. And then that was it. But it was those words when you start saying things like Congress is lying to us and stuff that apparently TikTok didn't like. And it was like you were doing a call to action, but then you didn't have a call to action. You're like setting one up.
Yeah,
I think it's remember, it's programming to choose and pick some specific words that they don't want you to know, that they don't want you to say those words. Maybe I say they lie, and it wasn't a lie. So
I can come up with something. All right, okay. Here we go. Wait a minute. I'll start it this way. I got to do it differently. Trump's tariffs, are they full of crap or are they like a big deal? See, I could do something like that.
Now,
I can't stutter when I'm doing it, though.
But you screwed up.
I did.
Because I have it filtering out when it does the music. So that won't even make it to the algorithm.
Thanks a lot, dude. I use this for punctuation.
That's great for the live audience, but it's not great for the algorithms. It doesn't like that. So I automatically cut that out in the instructions that I give it. So that is a very good point. You're absolutely right. And Faz, you will love to hear this. But I shared in our private chat the trials and tribulations of my wife's podcast and when they were dinged as well. And it is a very liberal-leaning platform.
What is?
There are TikTok. They will report things. And that's how I came up with the response I gave in our private chat about why that probably happened. If it's right away, I mean, like the day of posting, it's the algorithm. If it's several days after, then it's very likely somebody pushing a report button.
Well,
and we found that out with my wife's shorts.
I challenged that TikTok report that they did where they banned Zorro because Zorro is just a real big shit disturber. Oh, wait. I was looking for it right here. I was going to see if we got it unbanned.
Well, so I thought sure it was one of my comments, but I pulled up the video on YouTube because I went to the other platform and I'm like, holy shit, that's Zorro. Zorro never says anything stupid.
Not stupid. Inflammatory. Well, it was flagged as it was listed as hate speech, but there's no hate in it. He did say some things that people say when they do hate speech, but he never got there.
Right. It was alluding to it.
So maybe it was humans were like, oh, I know where this is going.
Oh, he's going to say something terrible about us.
Well, the government is very sensitive these days, and I'm sure that's what Faz wants to talk about tonight.
Yeah. So
they
you just set me
are.
off
They just.
'cause
But
sorry.
saying the
government-
word government anywhere is probably going to get something cut out.
So I posted this on Discord. The government has banned like something like 50 words from government usage, and there are a number of words. I'll just say that liberals use a lot. But do you know do you remember the list? Did you see that?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw
So
it.
it was climate change was one of those things. Okay, this is not a question. Climate change is real. Now, what people argue about is whether it's natural or something like that. We all know it's real.
Bingo. I will agree with you there. 100% that climate change is happening. Now, the reason why it's happening is where the butt hurt begins.
Wait, is it is it back on? I don't see a banned video on TikTok anymore. So maybe. Oh, wait. It's got one view. It's here.
Congratulations, you won the challenge.
This is what was banned. So, who checks the facts of the Congress? They're human, just like us. Pretty much that's it. And this is when I'm curious about. This is because what we were talking the other day boy, he's not getting to the point. What I was talking about the other day to talk about Titan is what if we humans, we start using our common sense more often than whatever protocol we have been using from the past. That's it. So, yeah. It just meant, honestly, that a human had to listen to it and go, oh, this is...
They don't want you to use your common sense, probably.
Okay.
I hate that.
No, everything these days are going to be, from now on, are pretty much going to be governed by AI. People don't want to pay humans to do a lot of stuff. They want AI to do it instead. Okay, that makes sense. You can scale up a lot better. You're using it. You're using AI right now. How much do we pay for this little hobby? Like $100 a year or something like that?
Something like that.
Are you crazy? I pay like $300 to keep this show running a year.
No, the shorts. Well, I'm paying for StreamYard and for some other things, and even this guy over here is paying for some things.
I've got about $300 a year invested in this show total.
I'm probably about $300 also.
Yeah. It's AI is fantastic until it's not, to use a phasism.
I just phased all over the place. I phaz all over, and people use phasisms all the time.
That is one of your monikers for everything. It is until it isn't.
Well,
and it helps. It really does help. However, relying too much on it does lead to problems.
Well, we're not going to debate the nature of facts in this episode. We're going to be talking instead about some facts that have been thrown at us by Mr. Trump. So let's get going to that. I want to get things moving. We've been navel gazing for the past 13 minutes.
That's okay. I enjoy this banter.
So, Mr. Trump has decided that he wants to have lots of tariffs, and he wants to get rid of the income tax. And he thinks that if he has tariffs against other countries, that he's going to have his way. But he seems to have forgotten that the United States was built so that it didn't need to put tariffs. The states didn't need to have tariffs against each other. The whole point of free trade agreements, including Trump's free trade agreement, was to not have tariffs. Tariffs they just punish everybody, and they're an extra tax on people. So what gives? Why is this even a thing? Why does he even like the idea of tariffs? Can somebody answer this for me?
Zorro can answer because, sorry, I had to yell at my kids. They're out playing basketball, and there's all kinds of noise in the background. So
hey, shut up, kids! Shut it out!
In my personal opinion, I think he's using that as a strategy to just piss off people or other countries that really don't understand why he's continue using that strategy into politics. To be honest to you, because if you really understand how tariff work, I mean, nobody get benefit of that. So,
Well,
it's just
Right.
don't understand. Like,
it is it, and you're not wrong, Zorro. It is a leverage point. 100%. It brings it up. Now, I saw some things this week, and I don't know if they're true. We would have to do the research on it. But people were posting that imports from Canada, let's say, on dairy and eggs are in the 70 to 100% tariff law. I don't know if that's true. I didn't look up the back end of that. But it was alleged that there are a ridiculous amount of tariffs on things that we import from Canada. So even a 25% or 50% tariff on things that they're bringing in here is still not equal. So that's something, while we're talking, that Faz will, I'm sure, look up and find the answer to. But either way, there is tariffs. There is tariffs that we don't realize exist for our exports. So my point in the last cast was saying things should be equal. That's what Trump is looking for. I do believe they need to be equal. But I don't know off the top of my head, or I haven't done the research on what those tariffs for our exports actually are.
So tariffs, ostensibly, the best way to use tariffs is a way to either get more of something in your country or remove something from your country. Say eggs are too low of price from Canada, and we want our local egg producers to benefit or something. We might put a tariff on them for that to kind of equalize out a price. And generally, you can use it in a very laid back way to kind of encourage certain imports and exports. This shit that Trump is doing is fucking random. It's let's just throw all sorts of shit at the wall and see how we can scare people. Nobody let's see, Demology just said something like, well, we'll drink scotch in the EU instead of Jack Daniels, it seems. Nobody's mad at Canada for putting tariffs back on us that I'm aware of, because it's fucking random. So it's like, okay, well, I guess Canada had to do that. I guess we're all going to suffer. But it's nobody's looking at these other countries and feeling like we're screwed over because they're doing tariffs back at us due to this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
I do apologize because I have not looked into exactly what those tariffs are coming back this way. But if it's true, what was being posted, if it's true, that we're being charged, a 110% tariff on eggs coming into the country, and we're only asking for 25 going out, that's a problem.
We're not responding to tariffs when we put tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Trump has simply said, he's just said, we've gotten a raw deal. This is despite him negotiating the current free trade agreement. So you'd think that what he negotiated was good enough, but he thinks that we're getting a raw deal. So he's doing that to punish. He's not doing that to make sure that a certain product gets in the United States or stays out.
So, and this is where I'll push back on you, Faz. because I've dealt with tariffs, I've dealt with customs, I've dealt with imports, exports for the last 14 years. And what I can tell you is that we export and then re-import on most things. For example, within the automotive industry, we'll export to Canada for parts to be produced. They will be designed and built in Canada, but then sent to Mexico to be assembled into the final product. And then they will be re-imported back into the United States.
Yeah.
And NAFTA that you alluded to, NAFTA is what Trump designed. There used to be...
No, he dissolved NAFTA. He created his own, something patriotically named. He did that in 2017.
Yes, it's USMCA. I'm getting there if you'd let me finish. NAFTA was designed to allow free trade between North American countries, hence the NA, North America Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. That was redesigned by Trump and turned into USMCA, US-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement. And if this is so complicated. There are so many levels to this, depending on where the product was procured from. And U.S. Customs goes literally all the way back to where whatever you're talking about was pulled out of the ground. And it gives levels. It gives levels for what tax will be assessed based on what country that product originated in. And if it was not produced in America, and there's rules, again, around what is considered produced in America, that's free. There's no tariffs, there's no dings, there's no penalties for that. But if you, for example, import goods from Germany and you don't transform them enough into something else that can be considered a U.S. product, you are charged based on Germany being the country of origin for that good, and it's subject to tariffs. If you substantially transform that product that you brought in from Germany into something that is substantially different than that German product, you can call it U.S. originated, which will then allow free trade, no tariffs between the North American countries of Canada, U.S., and Mexico.
Yes, let me make this a lot easier for you. For everyone out here, no matter what it is that we import or export, companies, both foreign and domestic, are going to find the cheapest way to get things back and forth so that they can avoid tariffs. So that means, hey, we just figured out that if we produce this in the United States and we send it to, and we send things to Canada to be remachined, and then we send it to Mexico to get a part added, and we send it back to the United States, that's the cheapest thing. That's what humans do. That's fine. The problem is people get pissed about that, because what they're really trying to do is they're trying to say, well, we want things to be made here, and we want America first and stuff like that. That's not how business works. Business works with whatever will get them the biggest profit. And so Trump is going crazy because he's just like, oh, I'll just put tariffs on everybody. In fact, Demology, he just put tariffs on spirits from the EU. So, you could forget that idea too. He did that yesterday. So the point is, no matter what he comes up with, there's going to be a way around it. And if there's no way around it, then the U.S. simply just won't make money. The companies car companies right now aren't deciding to move their cars back into the United States anymore. They didn't respond to Trump's latest tariffs against cars by doing that. In fact, Trump's tariffs have encouraged foreign investment in. So you can make more Toyotas, and the American companies like Ford and Chevy and stuff like that are getting penalized. These are cars made in the United States. The companies are in the United States, and they're getting penalized.
No, but this is why I argued with you before about that.
Yes.
Because definitions and terminology matters for these tariffs and for these the way that they calculate that. If you go and you look, if you open your driver's door on your car, you will see where it says produced in America, assembled in Mexico. That verbiage counts. And going back to very early FazRadio days, words matter. So what the USMCA does, which is the free trade agreement between US, Mexico, and Canada, the way that they put the definitions in there, assembled is not the same as produced. The production is considered when the product is finished and ready for sale. Assembly doesn't matter. So they can assemble a full product in Mexico, bring it to the U.S., and the U.S. can be considered a producing country if they finish the product substantially different than the assembly that was done in Mexico. It is minutia and definitions and fine line verbiage that makes those tariffs important.
Okay. So first of all, Trump is currently violating the USMCA. We've already negotiated what tariffs would be and wouldn't be charged. The fact that he's just throwing this out there, he's not going according to the same agreement that he made. So how can you trust him to really be responding correctly here? Two, like I said, any capitalist country that wants to make money is going to find the cheapest way of doing things. That's just how humans work. And if they're taking advantage of a loophole, that's because it wasn't codified in law. So codify it in law. But what Trump wants to do is he wants to move fast. He kind of thinks that a blitzkrieg is going to take over the world. Well, no, you're just confusing people. Blitzkriegs work in war because you can go in and physically wipe people out. As far as doing it economically, there's a lot more resources. There's a lot more angles to cover. He can't cover all the exits to the room.
Let's back up a minute. You posted just a moment ago, Trump is currently violating the USMCA. Tell me how he's doing that specifically.
So I gave the details when I pointed at it at the bottom of the screen. He negotiated a set of actions and tariffs that would be charged, and now he's going outside of that. That's it. No, I'm not going to be able to label, point to the exact section and footnote of where in it that it is. But the point is that needs to be renegotiated. Now, what he said before when he had problems with the with NAFTA is he said, "I think we're getting a bad deal. We need to renegotiate this." And then they did. Basically, what he's really saying is by charging tariffs is, I don't want to do the USMCA, which is something that I negotiated originally because I don't think that I made a good enough deal. So he's abandoning it, basically. So whenever a free trade agreement, when you violate something, if you decide that you just don't want to do it anymore, you just walk away. There's no real penalties. unless somebody has power over you. And he's doing it because he wants power over other people, countries.
What Zorro just posted is true and not true at the same time. His tariffs on imports, this is what a lot of people fail to understand. And I talked about it a little bit earlier. What's considered an import? A produced good or an assembled good?
Who cares? It doesn't matter. People are just going to find a way around it anyway.
Listen, according to what you said, codified law, what says is a produced good, the definition of a produced good is what matters here. To be a producer, you have to substantially change the material production of the asset being imported in order for it to be classified under a free trade agreement. That's the difference. And it is minutia, and it is little itty-bitty things. So what classifies something as being produced in America? The definition of that is what USMCA is about. He's not trying.
Okay, I'm going to look that up because I don't think that that's the case.
Let me finish my thought.
Go for it.
What you said is absolutely true. He is circumventing that, but he's trying to close the loopholes, not open them. Meaning, the reason they say assembled in Mexico versus produced in Mexico for an automobile, let's say, is that in Mexico, they will produce the dashboard, the mirror, the rear view mirror, the seats, the handbrake, the steering wheel, and all the individual parts. That is subject to tariffs. When all those parts get to the United States, the auto workers take those parts and they assemble those parts into something substantially different than the seat, the steering wheel, the turn signal indicator, the dashboard, the mirror, and they produce the vehicle, which is then considered an American production. So that's why you see those verbiage of assembled in Mexico, produced in the United States.
Okay, so that verbiage, if you're talking about what's on the door of your car, goes back for many years to give an idea where things are built. I'm talking about what Trump is doing with the USMCA, and it has very little to do with that. It has a lot to do with Trump saying we're being screwed. And he's not, and like all of his other assertions, he's not given reasoning for that. He simply says, we're getting screwed. This is what I'm going to do about it. Now, if you want to be a policy wonk and get into the USMCA, I think you're going to find out that he's just violating it. And in a real sense, he's walked away from it because he has an assertion. His reason is we're getting screwed. That's it.
We are. Because here's the thing.
Sometimes things are cheaper when produced in other nations. That's why again,
you use the
wrong
wrong verbiage.
We're pulling things from different countries and assembling them here. I get what you're saying. You're really getting into the minutiae talking about how people are somehow screwing us over. They're not screwing us over. They're staying within the provisions of the act.
Let me put this in a better context. Let me try this.
I think you're looking very hard to blame other people for the reason why Trump is trying to penalize other countries. And realize when you put a tariff on another country, it's the United States citizens that pay for it. It amounts
That's
to
a separate
tax on
topic.
us. It's the same
That's
topic.
a separate
That's
topic.
why
It's
that's
not.
why the tariffs were there.
Let me explain to you the why behind the why on this. Let's say we're talking about autos again. Every single thing that is produced for an automobile requires a factory. Okay? Now wait. Let me finish my thought, please. So you have accessories, which are dashboards, mirrors, rear view mirrors,
Parts.
turn signal indicators. Right, parts.
Yeah.
All of those parts have factories in other countries that are producing those. You have one factory in America that's putting all those together into one unit. So, what I was trying to explain in last week's podcast, Trump is trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States, which means instead of 10 factories in Mexico employing 500 people for each of those 10, which is 5,000 jobs in Mexico, and having one factory to put those together in America for 5,000 people. So you have all this production and all these jobs and all these things down in Mexico. 5,000 people versus 500 people in the United States. He's trying to bring that manufacturing back to the United States so that we have 5,500 jobs in the United States instead of 500 jobs in the United States and 5,000 in Mexico.
Okay. So
now do you understand my perspective on what I'm trying to get through to you
I've understood
as to why?
I've understood since the beginning, and there's a reason why we have shit made, parts made and or assembled in China. Let's take iPhones for an example. Okay, iPhones cost a certain amount of money to make. They could make them in the United States, but they don't. Why? Because it costs more. We have a minimum wage. We pay our people better than they do in China. China, you can get 7 people for the cost of one person here in the United States. So why is it in China? Because it lowers the price. Now, if Trump wants to bring manufacturing back into the United States, yay. Not going to happen though, because even with tariffs, it's going to be cheaper to do it in China. Now he can just keep raising the tariffs to get to be the point where it's going to be the United States can compete with it, but there's no incentive for people to do that because they can sell iPhones built in China in every other country besides the United States for an incredible markup. Why even build them in the United States if that's the case? I'm sure they will because they like access to the market, but they're going to be a whole lot more expensive just because he wants the tariffs. So sure, bring back manufacturing in the United States, but just realize that this isn't the 1960s and 70s. We aren't making desks and textiles and furniture anymore. Those are what other countries are doing because it's just cheaper and it's more efficient. Period. We would have to retool completely to make it cheaper and more efficient here.
That's the key word that word that you just say is everything about think what is more efficient to be made in the United States. Times change. We're living in another timeline already. So yes, I mean a good government, I will put it this way, generally speaking, a good government and entities will think on that. I think the good option will be, okay, let's gonna put in the table what will be more uh, efficiency in order to make stuff here in the United States. It doesn't qualify. It don't have the criteria what we need in order to make it accessible and cheaper for the citizens of the country. Okay, we're not gonna do that, but the problem with the President Trump, um, the way he exposes things and he say things is that it's all by reaction. There's actually no. It looks like it's not a plan behind his words. Like, okay, I'm doing this because this is the reason I'm doing this, and my projection should be this in 3 6 months from now. There's no explanation about that, and that's what people want right now. That's what when you start planning, organizing yourself, and use the people and use the all the employees that work for you in the White House or whatever he have, and you come up with a plan. You analyze, you go back in history, you go back in data, and you start looking for real reasons. What will be the best thing to do for this country for the next 5 years to 10 years? You know what? That's what I want to see. I'm a citizen of this country. That's what I want to see. I want to see a president that talks that way, that thinks that way, and not just a president that comes, show up in a meeting, or go in a public interview and say, "Well, we're gonna put tariff here. That's it. That's what I want because we're gonna screw up whatever is happening behind the curtains." You know, we don't want that anymore. We don't need that anymore. We
And
need to start thinking uh, and use our common sense and go to the real test and see what will work for the country or not. Obviously, in the process, you will find out what will be more benefit for the country and for the people. That's what the government need to do, and they need to provide those solutions for the people. There's no solutions by going out there and say, well, I'm going to put tariff in Mexico, I'm going to put tariff in Canada, I'm going to put tariff here and over there, and I don't care. But he's doing it without not knowing what's going to happen in the future. Oh, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, we're going to see what the Mexicans will say or the Canadians. So you cannot go out there and saying things and wait until people respond. I think that's a very, very a lack of way to actually do things, especially for the country. You come with a plan. You use your people. That's why you have a whole bunch of assistants in the White House, and you have experts in everything. Go out there, make your plan, sit down, put everything on paper, do a test, go back to the data, and see what is good for everyone, even his own children's. Because what we're looking at here is to look for the future. I'm being honest. Okay, the guys just go crazy and say stuff, but there is actually a real plan behind. Maybe we don't know. Maybe they know the plans, but we don't know. The way I see it, there's not a plan. And all the American people, we need to start thinking that way. What will be the best thing to do for the future? What didn't work before?
Faz is an expert on a lot of things. What you're not an expert on, and what I am an expert on, is manufacturing and how that whole process works.
But are you a trade economic expert? You know one part of it. You know how to pay tariffs and to deal with stuff.
No.
Have you managed an economy?
You're looking too high level here.
We're talking high level. We're literally talking about how tariffs would affect the United States economy, and you're saying, well, due to my experience, and you like to throw this out, you like to put the big penis on the table and say, be due to my experience as paying tariffs and shipping things overseas, ... I get it. I get that you have experience doing that, but we're talking about economy.
But let me ask something now that you mentioned that, Titan. If we look at to the government, and the first thing you think when you see these people on TV, they are the government, they represent us, don't you will think already that they are in a high level and start using, these common sense things?
No, because the manufacturing process and how that works over time for goods and services that are provided is completely different. The cost of manufacturing, you guys are way up here, and down here is where the manufacturing takes place, and where those definitions of produced in, product of, country of origin, and HTS code, which designates how much tariff is going to be charged, is done. So when you're talking up here, you're talking in generalities. When you're talking about down here on the manufacturing floor, there's a huge difference between these two. That's what I'm trying to get across to you, gentlemen. And to be able to put those manufacturing jobs here in the U.S. is a huge deal. And what's produced outside the U.S. versus what's produced in the U.S., those definitions, that minutia, that lower level is what really makes the deal when it comes to tariffs. And you guys don't understand that because you're not in manufacturing.
Apparently.
I'm gonna put it in a very simple example way that you just say, Titan. Let's gonna talk manufacture. Okay, let's gonna talk your topic. That little small here that you say compared to the big thing is only one little thing like this. Is minerals and primary material. This country geographically will have some materials that will make you to produce some parts, and will not have some materials that will not going to allow you to produce some parts. That's it. It's very simple mathematics. Some parts are made in Mexico because that country, as a country, as a part of that of the world in that specific country, maybe has some other minerals and primary materials that can produce that part more faster, cheaper, and the cost of labor is nothing. Very simple. We understand that. That's the real simple mathematics for parts. That's why you're gonna see a car that say produced in the United States, but it was assembled in Mexico. It's just because the wheel of the car is more cheaper to do it in Mexico. That's it.
They could make a bunch of steering wheels or
manufacture. That's manufacturing. That's manufacturing.
And ship them
that's
all
it.
here.
Very
they
simple.
Make them in bulk.
Yeah. Elon Musk, a couple of months ago, actually last year, he was fighting like crazy for these. What's the material that he?
Rare earth materials.
For batteries. I forget the name.
Rare earth materials are needed for lithium-ion batteries.
Lithium. Last year in 2024, Elon Musk was crazy about it because the whole amount of lithium that, yeah, I think is between Bolivia and another country they have over there. It is understandable. Yeah, he will move all what he have. He will go to these countries and create powerful plants over there. Just to it makes sense. That's manufacturing. Yeah, and he will go ahead and do the batteries and take the material from there and come back to the United States and continue producing cars.
It's cheaper.
So yes, that's manufacturing. But what people want to see is a plan. It's a government with better organization and to plan ahead and what will be the best thing to do for this country. Manufacturer will continue doing the same thing with Trump, without Donald Trump. Manufacturing will be continue producing parts in Mexico, Canada, Europe, Bolivia, I don't know, Panama. That's it. That will never go away. It's just because geographically in the world, you have some rare materials in some part of the world, and you have another materials in another part of the world. Pretty much.
Correct. But getting those to the U.S. and the tariffs that are imposed, depending on what that product is the sticking point. And how that is produced and where that is manufactured and where that is considered produced is the linchpin for all of these tariffs. And I'll go back and back and back to it every time. He wants those jobs, those manufacturing jobs in the United States, not in other countries. And by jacking up these tariffs, he's trying to cut that piece right in half so that there's pain for these other countries and these companies who produce in other countries to be able to bring that to the United States. Toyota, we know that's a Japanese company. Listen, all right, I'm going to address this directly. How many plants does Toyota have in the United States and where are they located?
I think nobody really knows the answer to that.
I do.
Well,
I know the answer.
Well, then
I
just,
never
just
answer
tell us
a
rather than
question
ask.
that I don't know the answer to.
Tell us rather than ask.
They have 4, and they're in the southeast United States, primarily in Georgia and Alabama. Okay? And what they do is they import those little itty-bitty pieces parts that don't have big tariffs to United States, and they assemble them and are considered produced goods in the United States to avoid those tariffs. So using that example for what Trump is trying to do, and what I talked about last week, is he wants these foreign companies, whether it's automotive or anything else, to put plants, manufacturing plants in the United States that creates jobs for people in the United States, inside the United States, so it can be considered a produced good. And that will bring those factories and those jobs to the United States, instead of having all of these countries producing those goods and then just shipping them to the U.S. Those manufacturing jobs are currently overseas. He wants them to do like Toyota did and bring their manufacturing of the fully assembled and produced part to the U.S., which will provide more jobs, more opportunity, and a production in the U.S. That's what I'm trying to get to.
So
that
that's
that is
not
not what's
going to happen.
that's what's happening. Actually, I think
No,
so.
no, that's not going to happen, actually. No, because these companies that are producing these, let's just say cars, are producing for a larger market than just the US. The US buys certain cars, okay? And the rest of the world buys other cars. Now, Ford would certainly like to have its stuff all over the world. If it had all of its manufacturing in the United States, great. Then they don't have to pay tariffs. But if they just put plants
They
in
do.
China, in Europe, and Africa, and Australia, and all that stuff, guess what? No tariffs either. They can then locally produce. They do that anyway. And then they ship to countries around there that don't charge tariffs with, Australia and China and stuff like that. They can then ship around and have a larger market. Crypto's had the same thing. Ripple has a much bigger presence overseas than it has in the United States because the United States has been so hostile against it. Great. Trump might think that he can get everybody over here, but that's not going to happen. Great. There's a company like Toyota that does it, and there might be some others to do it, but it's not going to happen for all companies, and it certainly isn't going to happen in the next 3.5 years.
But it has happened in the past.
You've had
all right. No. Let's
the question is, when did Toyota put those plants in the United States? Did they do it after Trump penalized them?
I'm trying to get there, Faz. I'm trying.
I'm trying to help me understand.
Let's talk about an actual example that happened.
According
to
ChatGPT, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plants of Toyota manufacturing in the United States.
Thank you, Zorro. Let's talk about an example that actually happened that has a articulable way to verify it. We're going to talk about my favorite car that I ever owned, Mercedes. Mercedes is a pretty much German automotive and engineering specialty. And in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Mercedes split. There's two kinds of Mercedes. There's Mercedes, and there's Mercedes AMG. And depending on what style and type of vehicle that you have either an actual Mercedes or you have a Mercedes AMG, which stands for, the AMG is for American Motor Group. And they went and partnered with Mopar. Do you know what Mopar is? Mopar is Dodge, Chrysler, and what's the last one? Dodge, Chrysler, and Plymouth. There we go. And what they did is they produced Mercedes from the same Chrysler plant that Jeeps were produced from. And there isn't anything more American than a Jeep. So Mercedes and Jeep and Chrysler, or whatever you want to call it, combined to create the AMG division of Mercedes. And there's a distinct difference in quality, service time, and aesthetics between the two. If you have a Mercedes that's an AMG product, it's cheaper, and that's American Motor Group, and you have a distinct following and resale value and everything associated with that vehicle, depending on if it's an AMG product or if it's a Mercedes product. Back then, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, there was completely different tariff rules. And it made sense for them to take that production of those Mercedes and put it in the United States. That isn't the case today because times have changed. What you need to understand is that it's not high level, it is low level. Going back to what you said way earlier in the podcast about companies are going to do what's advantageous for that company to do. And because of that, back then, it was cheaper for Mercedes to put a Mercedes branded vehicle on the road as an AMG Mercedes than it was for an actual Mercedes. And today, it's cheaper for Toyota to put a Toyota product on the market, even as a foreign vehicle, but produced in the United States, which created thousands upon thousands of American jobs, than it is to produce them and import them into the United States. And I promise I'll finish after this comment. What that foils into today is that Donald Trump can put a 100% tariff on Japanese products coming in, and people will lose their freaking mind saying, oh my God, I can't get my Toyota. My Toyota is going to be 100% more expensive. It's not, because they're produced in the United States. That's part of what I'm trying to get across to you, is it's not always the case that tariffs are going to raise prices on American people.
Okay, wait a minute. You're moving the goalposts here, and you've gone way wide with this whole AMG kind of BS, which I looked up, and apparently Demology did at the same time. They're a high performance version of Mercedes. Great, they're better cars. They cost more. Okay, and what we were talking about the economic realities of putting tariffs on common products or all products that fit a certain category coming into the United States. Great. Now, you made a big deal about there being a number of Toyota plants in the United States, which I looked up. There's actually more than what you said, which is awesome. Great. They want to hit the American market. There's far more Toyota plants in other countries, especially Japan. Okay. So they have a business model that can work very well without the United States, and they can ship around all over the United States. All over the world. They don't need to come here. What we're going to get here, honestly, is we're just going to get the companies that want to move their stuff to the United States. Are you going to have a lot of jobs for that? Maybe 5 or 6 years from now, but Trump's not going to be in office, and the Democrats are just going to reverse it anyway. How about we actually try to solve other problems and not worry about, let's worry more about AI taking over jobs, because all these Toyota plants that might be in the United States, they're going to do the same thing that Ford will and Chevy and everybody else, is they'll just automate with AI robots. Okay. So it doesn't matter. You're not going to, whatever jobs are left.
Which is, I think Tesla, that's what they're doing now.
Well, great.
He went fully automatically using AI.
But the United States shouldn't be spending all of its time trying to attract assemblers. We have had in the past, not as much anymore, we've had in the past a high education standard. We're abolishing the fucking Department of Education. The United States is one of the most expensive places to send people to school. So we're not encouraging our population to get smarter. Okay. But that's exactly what we need to do if we want to compete in a world with AI, because maybe we need to maintain these robots. Maybe we need to program more. Nope. can't do it, you're going to have more programmers from India programming those things than us because they're cheaper. They might not have as much at the moment. They're starting to have more education than us. So I get it. He wants to bring manufacturing in the United States, but his implementation is random. And as Zorro said, there's no plan. It's very reactive. And in fact, it's driven by his ego. If somebody charges reciprocal tariffs because they don't understand what the fuck Trump is doing, then he's just going to go higher because people didn't kowtow to him. It's no secret that Trump likes to have his ego stroked. It's no secret that he doesn't really think about things. He just does them. So we need to stop acting like this guy is a fucking economic genius when he has cut a lot of economists out of the White House Economic Office, when he has cut the science part of the White House offices, when he has cut the medical parts of the White House office. This is not some well thought out smart strategy. He's just throwing shit at the wall and then seeing what happens.
So let me correct myself. I had a little faux pas issue there. AMG, you're right, Demology, is that. I confused that with what's called Daimler AG, which is Mercedes AG, which also produces a wide variety here in the U.S. So I apologize. AMG is that big brand, but AG is the U.S. brand of Mercedes. So I did have that confused. I want to make a correction there.
What actually what Faz says is very smart, and obviously with all the respect that any president of the United States deserve, is just is I mean he any president, any people that is in the government right now, they need to put their ego away. And that's why they have all these people around them, smart people, top the top level people, use them, uh, to put the plan there to actually create something new, and be creative, and create new ways to lead this country to a better place. That's it. That's all that he needs to do. We know. I mean, I guess he's not an expert in economy. Donald Trump will not be an expert in everything. No.
We need to stop trying to defend the silliness and the randomness that he's doing. I get it. There is a possible win situation to where what he's doing could work. But you're assuming that he's following some sort of structured plan, like, oh, because of this, then you're going to do that. In any economic situation, you need a plan. Now, here's what he's actually relying upon. He's relying upon shock and awe, and he's relying on fear, and he's relying on other people, which is all part of the same thing. He's relying on other people to find a way to adapt. A lot of companies do this, and every once in a while, a company gets some really smart people in there, and the smart people go, you know what? We can make this work by changing some of the rules. Great. That's what companies do, but countries, they have a lot more people that suffer. Great. You're going to have tariffs on those things so you can bring manufacturing back. But what that really means is the United States citizens are going to be paying that tax for 4 or 5 years until we bring more jobs in. Where's this money coming from? It's coming out of our asses. We don't have it. I mean, we're the most debt-ridden population in the world. We have more money on our credit cards right now than pretty much every other country out there. So don't tell me that we're getting a deal for something like that, that 5 years from now that there's going to be more jobs, there was no reason to upset the apple cart as it is. And if you want to change the game, great. Introduce something new. Give Tesla some subsidies. Encourage them to do better, and put your finger on the scale if you want Tesla to do better than foreign companies. But don't lie to me and say that other people are screwing us. Therefore, we're going to do this long-term plan that's going to hurt us more than other people to bring people into this country. And by the time you're completely broke, then you might have a job. By the way, I think that's going to score pretty high on your algo.
I think
a lot of passion there.
Probably gonna ban me again from this this show. No,
Look,
we're not saying nothing crazy. It's just reality. We want that. We need to be more organized. Like, I mean, I'm expecting that from all of them, not only Donald Trump, all the people that work in the government. I mean, it is time to do a smart move and smart things. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Can we switch, because we're over an hour, and I want to get to the second part of our cast before people get tired and fall asleep, and that would be us old people, not the people who watch us. Speaking of smart things, there is 3 companies, I think 2 companies and in a country, that are landing or have landed things on the moon. Two American companies have landed probes on the moon. One of them, kind of got there and crashed once they got there. But
do we have any picture of that?
There are. I don't have any pictures, but I'm sure you can come up with them. One of them is Firefly Space or something. Firefly Technologies. They landed on the moon, and they're still up and running. The other one is Intuitive Machines, which actually I've been investing in for quite a while now. They make space parts for space missions and stuff like that. And I thought, honestly, that I gotten into them because I figured that they were supporting Tesla. I did not even know that they had a lander. Shows how little research I did. But Intuitive Machines, they landed apparently in a very hard place, and unfortunately for them, it tipped over. And I'll let you talk in just a second here. The third one is Japanese, and the Japanese actually landed something on the moon a few years ago, but it tipped over too. So this is their second try, and I don't think they've landed yet, but I think in the next few days they will. Go ahead, Mr. Titan.
No, I just wanted to throw a comment out there for your evidence part there. You said, hey, that's the way it is, but you can go find it if you want. So
it's pretty easy. Type Intuitive Machines in Google or type Firefly Space Mission. You'll find it.
That'll be our new standard. This is what I'm asserting, and if you don't like it, you can go find it.
Are you saying you want me to show you evidence? I can do that.
No. What I'm saying is,
I'll do it.
Is that you've crabbed over me.
Here we go.
Not producing evidence.
Okay, so here's the question.
If this is an important question here. Find it.
You are literally arguing whether companies exist or whether they did something. You're literally arguing this.
I'm not.
This is something easily. Okay. Do you believe that we have landed anything on the moon, including other companies, in the last few days?
I don't know.
Okay, so if I showed you a news article that talked about that, would that convince you?
No.
Then why the fuck should I present anything?
My point exactly. Thank you.
If your point is literally that you won't believe a word anybody says?
No. What I'm saying is,
what conditions do you have that you need to believe that something's happened? Because I'm having a hard time believing that we're even having a conversation about whether companies landed something on the moon. Two of them are. One of them's a public company.
It doesn't matter. They're
all 3. They're using SpaceX for launching their stuff to the moon.
Faz, I've presented evidence. on the cast and in Discord, and your response to that was, "That's not good enough."
You made a
So-
far out claim.
I remember that
You
one.
made far
Yeah,
out claims.
Zorro knows.
I remember
And those were
that
far
one,
out
yeah.
claims, sir. Do you really think
So-
that these are far out claims? I want to
So-
establish. I want to establish a metric. Are these far out claims?
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
And so then I followed it up with you. I am only too happy to Google it and show you. So the next thing is, if I Google some evidence that shows pictures of these landers on the moon, in fact, some of them landing on the moon, is that good enough? You said no.
Right,
So,
because you haven't accepted my evidence where I put pictures and words and
Oh,
everything else on
so
there
this
because you
has
said
to-
it wasn't good enough.
okay, so
So I'm
really,
gonna tell you,
really,
your
this
evidence
has to
isn't
do.
good enough.
This has to do with the fact that you made far out claims in the past, probably of people levitating rocks, and I didn't believe you, despite you showing me some sort of far out fringe website. These aren't far out fringe websites. These are fucking everybody.
All right.
Seriously.
So all right. So
Everybody.
All right, so if you're
Nobody
going to
disagrees
define
with
that,
this.
if you're going to define that, if I show you a mainstream media evidence article that proves something that I have asserted, you'll accept it, right?
Show me CNN and Fox News both agreeing at the same time. Yes.
No. See,
No,
now
that was
you're-
it.
you're
That's mainstream.
creating
Can't get much more mainstream than that.
One. I want one mainstream
No.
article.
I suggested two so that they could back each other up. In fact,
Oh.
that's the gold standard of getting evidence.
See,
is
here
if
we
you can
go.
find it from multiple locations.
Here
really,
we
you're
go.
you're just butthurt because I shot you down, and you're not, and I'm not
No.
allowing you to shoot me down. Oh, this is
All
all
right,
this is all
Mm-mm.
AGI. This is all AI and AGI stuff. No, this isn't real. Bullshit. Okay, this is everywhere.
But you're defining CNN and Fox as the experts. You're
I
proclaiming
didn't.
they're the
No.
experts.
Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't call them experts. I said areas where you can find the evidence. Okay.
No,
now,
no.
This
You
evidence,
said you give me
this
two
evidence comes from
sources
NASA.
like Fox and
do you
CNN.
see that this says NASA right here? Fox News and
NASA's
CNN are
not
both
the
going to
expert.
cite the same places.
NASA is not an expert.
Yes, they are. They literally
not.
sent a man to the moon.
You believe that. Not everybody believes
the,
that.
The evidence is beyond overwhelming that it's laughable that you even try to maintain the fiction that this could be false.
This
I
is
mean,
the
you're doing yourself a
I'm
disservice
not-
at this point.
I'm not asserting that
You're
it's false.
not
I'm
shrewd
questioning.
and trying to evaluate facts. You are literally closing your eyes and burying your head in the ground when you're saying that nobody has landed on the moon. Now, what's going to happen
not
is more and more
saying that. I
companies,
never said
other than
that.
these three, are going to continue landing on the moon. You're going to continue saying no. And honestly, from a financial point of view, I'm going to make a lot more money than you because I'll be investing in these companies. So you could just think of it that way. Remember, money makes the world go around. So I don't care what you think. Now, I would really rather you get on the train, kind of like I brought you on the crypto train. You wound up believing me, and you wound up evaluating it for yourself. You follow that. Oh, yeah, that's a Firefly lander. That one's awesome. That's the Blue Ghost. But that's not real. No, it's not all because Mr. Titan doesn't seem to think it's real.
I'm going to show you a video of Jesus being hung on the cross, and we're not
getting into
that's
religion
real,
now.
right?
Everybody has their own relics.
We're not talking about religion. I'm showing you video evidence of it happening, so you're going to believe it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the Blue Ghost.
Make it plausible. Make it reproducible. This is reproducible.
If I show you two pieces of evidence, that Jesus was hung on the cross,
you are literally
you'll believe
using
it.
that to refute people landing on the moon. Really?
I'm using your definitions.
My definition
of
is
reproducible
reproducibility.
evidence. Right. If I can reproduce it twice,
no.
with two different sources,
when you want to talk about the standard of evidence, if evidence is reproducible. Now, what we do in this cast, is we want to cite a couple sources so we can know that it's not full of shit. Okay, but if you want to get down to brass tacks, if you go to the moon right now, or if you point a telescope in the right place of the moon, you will see these things still sitting there. You probably won't see the one in the southern, the one that fell over, because it's in the southern part of the moon and it's permanently in shadow, unfortunately. But this one right here,
proof.
there is two proof. There's banks that finance these people. There is.
So
They've
if
worked
the bank
with
says
SpaceX.
so, it's okay.
They've spent money. They have stock. They have all sorts of things. They have employees.
Which one is
There's
this
no
one?
employees coming out saying that Firefly is fake.
This is the blue ghost. This one.
Yes.
Here? Yeah, this one. This is the blue ghost.
What is that? Is that a probe?
It's a
It's a
thing.
fucking lander.
It's a thing. It's a thing
It's a
wrapped
rocket engine
in
on the bottom and
tinfoil.
four landing legs.
It's a thing wrapped in a tinfoil paper.
I believe that's gold foil, because that's great.
We saw the picture. It must be true.
I think it is. That's really. Do you think that I'm saying this because there is a picture? I'm saying this because this is a real company. This is a real company that has real employees. They're working with NASA. They're working with SpaceX. This is verifiable in 16 different ways. Now,
according to your standards,
according to my standards, according to science in general, as far as what's funny about NASA going to the moon is they've made public every bit of telemetry data that they still have, and every bit of contracts and instruction manuals and everything else, and there is a shitload, and that's still not enough. So if you're going to say that that's not enough, this is never going to be enough for you. Now, is this on Fox News? Does Fox believe in this? Does Trump believe in this? I have a feeling Trump does. So you should like it then, right?
No, I'm not a Trump fan.
Okay. So then what's the problem?
My question about this picture, why are they still taking pictures in black and white? There's any reason?
Because the moon is not green and yellow. Because this is the color of the moon. It's this dark gray. You're when you have the sun bounces off the moon. Now, if you look at part of the lander, if they have a color flag on it, you might see that. One of the complaints about landers landing on Mars that crazy people had was, how come everything's red? Oh my God, there's so much dust, suspended in the atmosphere. It's like looking through a red filter. No, they do have an American flag and stuff like that on those landers, but the colors don't look right because
this is the camera right here of the.
There's 4 cameras.
The 4 cameras of the
0, 1, 2, and 3.
This one is the blue ghost as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I understand that that's the colors that's the color of the moon, but the colors of the actual fire from the engines, I don't know. Is there black as well?
Dude.
Well, I don't see colors in the
flames here. I'm only too
either.
happy. I'm only too happy to explain a lot about these things, but I don't get the sense that if I did that it would be listened to by everybody.
I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I just want to
So
understand.
as far as fire in space, you actually don't need fire. You can just use compressed air. It might also be that the I don't think that you have 4 fire jets there. Why?
Okay.
You don't need that. You just need to propel gas.
Okay.
We don't have. So you might see there might be a fire inside the engine. So what's that? Titan and I were talking a while back about how do rockets work in space? What are they pushing against? Do you remember that one?
I remember that one.
Space?
I remember that one. Yeah.
And so
I do.
Okay. So what happens there is the fire pushes against the rocket. And I explained that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're pushing the rocket away, if you have a fire that's pushing, not a fire, but if you have an engine that's pushing against the rocket, it's pushing the rocket one direction. In this case, it looks like it's trying to slow this thing down so that it can land on the moon.
But
Great.
You can see the dirt from the moon is just moving.
Regolith.
And all, right here, boom. When it shot the moon. the land. Boom.
Now
right
it
there.
might be actually. It might be that these cameras might be black and white because they don't need color in this case. But even if they did show color, you wouldn't see very much, if any, because there aren't a lot of colors on Mars. So why would you need the information? That's extra data that you don't need. So I don't know if there is or not, but I'm just saying it's not required. But I'm baffled that we're going to be having more and more companies going to Mars. SpaceX has a big plan to go to Mars. It's part of their plan. The big plan to land on the moon. It's part of their plan to land on Mars. And if we are sitting here trying to debate whether people have actually landed on the moon, you're missing the point. It's if you're debating whether the Earth is flat or not, you're not going to move forward as a species. Well, we are not going to move forward as a species because we're constantly navel gazing. It's obvious that we've landed on the moon. There's so many thousands upon thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of hours of us of video and audio and telemetry and stuff like that showing this stuff. Just naysaying it at this point just makes you look bad.
This is a perfect shot right here. There you go.
It's just small craters on the moon. Looks pretty boring to me. I'd like to see what kind of science it's doing, honestly. See, apparently the moon has a little bit of dirt on it. Great.
See, then they release all the. There you go. That's the landing, right there.
Saw some dirt fly around.
Yeah. And then pretty much that's it. Good.
Yeah.
We land on the moon. Again.
So there's some video also of the Intuitive Machines probe landing, but it's not halfway as neat. I think it landed and then it immediately fell over. Well, the really sucky thing about that is the Intuitive Machines one landed in the south pole of the moon, which is rumored to, well, according to our science, supposed to have water ice embedded in the rocks. And it was going to drill into the ground. And unfortunately, because it fell over, their drill can't be tested. And so now they got to send another one, which investors are going to have to pay for. But that's good. The stock price has crashed. And I am 1,000% optimistic that they will launch another one, doing what they're doing and tweaking a few things that they didn't do right. And I think it's going to space is going to make a lot of money. It's going to be a new source of raw materials and income for forever.
Follow the money.
It's money. The money goes there, and if this is all fake, then this fake economy is doing really well. There are people that think that crypto is fake, but we know that's not true because we know how it works. I'm just suggesting the same thing about going to the moon. We know how it works. We need to stop denying basic facts.
All right.
All right. Anyway, I would like to celebrate that we had 2 American companies get to the moon. This is the very, very beginning of a lot of what Japan wants to have a moon base. That's a great idea.
Are you going to celebrate the Japanese moon base?
Well, yeah. Why not? There's a Chinese space station. Why not celebrate that? The Chinese, sorry, I should have said Chinese. The Chinese really want a moon base because they want to take advantage of its location. See, the moon is a great staging area to get to the rest of the world. The moon has lots of raw materials that not the world, the rest of the solar system. The moon has a lot of raw materials that we can use to get to the rest of the solar system. We can just send ships down, or sorry, have things down there and constantly move raw materials up to orbit and use those to get around the solar system, like oxygen, water. Moon has oxygen on it. It's just all embedded in the dirt.
Wow.
So it's stay tuned. This stuff is really going to take off, no pun intended. And you'll see SpaceX going there, provided Elon doesn't totally screw the pooch on that one. He's starting to do a good job with that.
Which fast food chain will be the first one to be on the moon?
I can tell you what hotel will probably be on the first moon. Probably be
Nope.
a Hilton.
No, it's actually a pizza place, and this company put the idea out there, I believe, 20 years ago, and they say we're gonna put a pizza place on the moon, and that would be Papa John's.
You know what Hilton has done?
No, for real. Guys,
So,
no.
Hilton, the hotel
You guys,
company,
go ahead.
Hilton, the hotel company, has paid for development of space station components and habitation modules. In fact, they've gone very specifically. In fact, you can look up Hilton space station habitation modules, and you'll see that what they're looking to do is have inflatable space station modules.
Actually, I think it's I'm going to correct my information. Is Domino's Pizza.
Oh, Domino's
Pizza, yeah.
But they want inflatable modules so that they can launch them up there cheaply, and people can go up there and hang out for a few days. And so when it gets cheaper to launch people in orbit, Hilton wants to be there, and they're going to be farming all the rich people to go up there first. We already have like a couple space tourists went up to the space station, but Hilton wants to take advantage of that. So once they figure out how to do it, once SpaceX gets moving really big to launching things up into orbit, that's next.
Nice.
All right. So we have been on for now an hour and 30 minutes. What do we have here? A lot of the stuff behind the moon landings is explained. That time they were not pussies, so risk of dying was just the risk worth of taking the first to the moon. Oh yeah, it's talking about the movie.
You should take offense to that, Faz, because it's referring to the female version being inadequate. You should tell Demology that that's not appropriate for this channel.
I think you're unhappy because you lost an argument.
I didn't lose an argument at all.
You literally said that you did not want to believe what I said because the last time nothing I produced,
there you go.
You would agree with, because the last time you said something that was far out, I didn't believe the evidence that you gave, and that was it. It's like, I'm not going to believe evidence that you give because you didn't believe me. So it shows that you're not evaluating the evidence. You're putting emotion behind this.
Keep changing the subject.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not going to be baited by that. Let's put it that way.
Well, I don't think this show is about who's right or not, or who's right or wrong. It's just we just want to emphasize people to think and use your common sense when you see stuff being said.
I like that. I like the idea of using common sense, which would include using common tools that we all use. Common tools alone will teach you just oodles about the world and about what's true and what's false. I love that.
Common sense doesn't always have reproducible evidence, so you can't say that, Faz. You are about reproducible evidence.
That was Mr. Zorro that said that.
Right, but you agreed with him. You were nodding your head.
Oh, so you're going to go after me now because I agreed with him. You just want to get back at me because I didn't believe your far out stories.
No, what I'm trying to say is that you say there has to be standards, but then you deviate from those standards when it suits your purpose, and you don't deviate from them when it doesn't suit your purpose.
I think you're looking for an argument. Common sense actually does adhere to standards, a lot of standards. So I'm fine with that. I mean, if you want to argue the use of common sense as a method to evaluate, sure, let's go there. Common sense, common sense uses reproducible facts as well. It's common. Everybody does it.
So does common
called
sense
empirical evidence.
automatically all right, so does common sense equal empirical evidence?
Common sense is empirical evidence. Empirical evidence is stuff that you can see, right? Now, we
So
all
common sense is then scientific for you to believe, correct?
common sense can certainly include it. See, I think you're
subject to change at
trying-
Faz's discretion.
Tell me something in the universe that doesn't change.
What I'm trying to get across, and what I'm sarcastically throwing out there, is that evidence is only what Faz believes is evidence.
I think
You'll
you're
change the
passionate for disagreeing with
definitions
me.
depending on what Faz believes.
I think you're emotionally disagreeing. I am happy for you to use science without me in the room.
If I can, you avoided the
You
topic
can
and changed the
cut
subject.
my opinion out of the situation completely.
If
as long
I
as you
show
use
you,
science, it works.
if
Science
I
is
show
real.
you, if I show you two different sources
That
that show
that.
that Jesus was
Bring-
hung on the cross,
Bring it
you'll
on.
bring it,
Bring it on.
right?
Let's
Bring
see.
it on.
Let's see. The Bible's one source, right?
No, fast. Just,
Remember,
no,
if you have a copy of the Amazing
really want
Spider-Man
to
comic book, that will give you
I really-
evidence that
I really
Spider-Man
want
is real.
to see that.
Exactly.
So that
Titan
really doesn't help.
Bring it on.
Quality of evidence matters.
No,
So
well, okay.
That's why I
So-
said
so
if you had
quality
some
of
opposing
evidence-
sources like CNN and Fox News for a moon landing, that
but
wouldn't
you're
that be good enough?
defining what those qualifications are. Your initial
Reproducible.
statement is if it's reproducible,
That's how science
then
works.
it's fact,
That's
and
how
it's
science
science,
works.
and it's true. But then you're saying, well, wait a minute. If I don't agree with those two sources, that's not valid.
No,
if
I
it's
didn't
not
say that.
CNN and Fox News, I don't agree with it
So
because they're not valid sources.
I had given an example for landing on the moon. CNN and Fox News agreeing with each other is awesome. Now, you don't need CNN and Fox News to know that we landed on the moon. You can look at all the telemetry that NASA has published. You can
Deal.
look at
Deal.
a wealth of evidence all around the world.
You don't need CNN and Fox News.
No, you need it to be reproducible.
Right. I will reproduce for you two sources of Jesus
Two sources
being hung
that
on
agree
the
with
cross.
each other is not reproducible. I see what you're trying to say.
It is. No.
So CNN and Fox News saying something is a good way of determining quickly that something's not BS. Now, if you still believe it's BS, you can take that as a starting point and go in there and determine whether it's true or false by looking at the reproducible aspects of it.
Faz,
If you're looking for an
stop
absolute answer, if I say anything that two sources of my choice agree with, I mean they could be Breitbart and the Bible. Okay, no, that's not good enough. How about you have something that goes into the details?
You're defining who those two sources are. That's wrong.
Reproducibility is all you need.
If it's
you're trying really hard. Reproducibility is all you need.
If reproducibility is all that's needed, you're not allowed to define the sources.
Now, copying is not the same thing as reproducing.
You're not allowed to define.
Here's some more
the
reproducibility
sources.
for you. What do you think that is?
That's a
rocket.
bunch of jet wash. Yeah.
Oh, that's a rocket that SpaceX made, and it looks like this one hopefully will be captured by this tower. Great. Is this all you need? Well, most people it is. But if you want to doubt it, you can go find another angle of this, or you could find other evidence of these parts being bought and put together to find out that, this must have actually happened. There's also people that work at this, to put this whole thing together.
No, that's more than two sources.
SpaceX.
That's more than one reproducible
I
source.
just gave you a wealth of places that you can go to determine whether this is real. I don't think that we have a problem whether this is real or not. This is not produced by a movie studio.
This is
if I show
real.
you two sources, two separate sources that prove the same thing, you will take that as 100% evidence, yes or no?
No.
I
No.
want to see that.
See?
Let him do it.
You're talking out of both sides of your face here.
Mm.
If you agree with the sources, it's valid. If you don't agree with the sources, it's not valid.
If I agree with a source, that means it's probably going to be a lot quicker. But you can still give two sources and still be woefully wrong.
Right.
You're
so
looking
you've
for some
given
sort of absolute
you've
that you're not
given
gonna get.
right. So agree with me. You've given two sources for things landing on the moon.
I gave an example of two sources.
You gave
that
two sources.
Listen, I gave an example of two sources that usually disagree with each other as a good way to say that's probably real. Now, is it absolutely real? We don't know, but
We
the
don't
good news is
know.
that's a good place to start.
So you can't say anything landed on the moon because those two sources can't be verified.
I never said that was an absolute an absolute proof that happened. I said that's something we could probably take to the bank because they disagree with each other normally, and they're mainstream. They probably did their homework with that, but you never know. I love that. You're trying really hard, Mr. Titan, but nobody
I'm
here
not.
believes you. Nobody
No.
here's following along that
You
line of thinking.
I provided multiple sources, and you said that wasn't
you are
good
still butthurt
enough.
that I don't believe that somehow somebody levitated big rocks a long time ago. That's about it.
But
Oh my God! Is that a picture of the blue ghost on the moon? No, that looks like just a bright spot. That's not the blue ghost.
Right. You don't agree with that source.
I'm just
so
making
it's
fun
not
of you.
true.
I'm just making
That's
fun
what
of
I'm trying to get at, Faz. I
gave
hate
that in
arguing
addition
with you.
to
I
other
do.
pictures.
I hate it.
This is
But
another angle.
You
Yes.
change. You're the one who changes the goalposts every time
You're
this
trying
happens.
really hard,
Every
but it's not
time.
working. It's not. You're trying, but it's not going to work. You don't need me to tell you or to define what's true or not. You simply just need to follow science. That's it.
Right. I find two sources. It's true.
No.
No.
You need to, as you would say, get the why behind the why. Why am I asking for you to provide two sources that disagree with each other?
Two sources. I'll give you three sources.
I said that disagree with each other. Why would I ask you?
I'll give you three sources.
What's the
of
why
truth.
behind the why? Why would I ask you this? Maybe
So-
because we could see it from two different angles.
Either way, Faz,
that-
you're
this looks
talking.
like
You're
The
double
Apollo mission
talking.
that went to Hadley Rill. That's a rill on the Earth,
What
on
is
the
that?
moon.
Oh, is the camera?
I believe this is
angle?
Apollo 16, 15 or 16. So having two sources, if you want an absolute, you're not going to get that. But if we're going to talk about this in a cast and have a belief that something might have happened, it's a great place to start. Now, if your two sources are Demology and Zorro, do you just want to be right there? I mean, somebody can easily produce a lie that two sources can say. I said CNN and Fox because they happen to disagree with each other. It might be
No.
a good place to start.
Faz, your assertion over and over and over on this cast is simply, if it's reproducible, it's a fact.
If it's reproducible, we can accept it. If it's reproducible, we can accept it as a fact. But there's some things that are
Yes.
reproducible that we find out that are slightly different. But generally
I can
speaking, yes.
reproduce the fact more than 2 times that Jesus was hung on the cross, and you will still refute that by saying
Do you know what I
evidence
mean
is
by
not good
reproducible?
enough.
Are you suggesting if you saw a news account in 2 places that is reproducible?
That's what you're saying. That's not what I'm
said
saying.
that 2 sources that disagree with each other might have something to it. Is that the Earth up there, or is that the moon above the moon? So if you have 2 sources that disagree with each other, I think that means something. You might be onto something. But if you have 2 sources like Demology and Zorro, You're not onto something. They're just two people saying stuff.
Using your own argument, using two sources that disagree with each other,
are a great way to have a starting place to start to verify this stuff.
That might be the way to go. But you asserted that because you had two sources that disagree, that's a fact.
I gave an example. I gave an example of something that we could use on this cast. I don't know how many times we got to repeat this over and over again. You're looking really hard. You're trying really hard to suggest that we do something really badly and be silly about it when it's just science.
I'm suggesting that your definitions keep changing depending on what you feel is the right answer.
You know, my definitions could change 1,000 times and it wouldn't change reality. So
again,
it doesn't matter how many
sources
you have agreeing or disagreeing or what I say about how to do things, whatever. You simply, it's easy enough. Follow the evidence. Is it reproducible? And I don't mean wait a minute. And I don't mean reproducible by one person copied off another. Okay. That's the gold standard for science is reproducibility. Can somebody, without talking to the first person,
look at this
somebody without even talking to another person, agree with that other person, they might be onto something. So this one's actually in color. Well, you know that you can colorize that.
Let me see. Oh.
All right, I think after this we better get going. I think that is the Earth. That must be rather big.
Is it the light of the sun?
Well,
it's purple.
It's bound. Yeah. When light hits things at an angle and reflects back at an angle, it's going to be a different color. The sun has all colors in it.
There you go. Boom. The land.
So it's probably reflecting off of part of the lens, or the lens cover, or something like that. And that's why you saw that lens flare. That tends to be called.
There you go. All right.
Good to see that is in color, so that you know that the moon is this gunpowder gray that looks black and white on every TV screen you see. Yeah, so it's filmed from many different angles.
Yep.
That's not a valid source. It's not CNN or Fox.
I'm saddened to hear that we can't talk about how we can build upon this feat by this company. But instead, we have to keep stopping and going back to whether we have even landed on the moon. It saddens me that we can't get past this.
Your definitions. You're trying to argue a definition that isn't true.
I'm not sure I'm even wanting to correct you anymore.
I will not argue.
We can't build upon this. We can't build upon this wonderful thing that's happened. This company is going to make a lot of money in the future because it will be sending more things to the moon. But we can't talk about that. We have to talk about whether it's real, whether they're lying to us.
Can I finish my thought, or are you going to keep cutting me off?
Please help me with your thought process.
I'm not arguing that we landed on the moon.
Thank you.
I'm arguing, potentially, that we have not landed humans on the moon. It's possible that we've landed on a moon.
Just not Earth's moon.
I don't know. I don't know if we've landed humans on the moon. I don't know if we've landed on an object that we call the moon is actually the moon. I'm questioning that. That's all. I'm not asserting that we haven't. I'm not asserting that the moon is fake. I'm asserting that I don't know. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
What species is
again, like I said, if you
Look how
can't,
cheesy that was. Did you see
if you
that
can't-
angle? It's all like goofy and
if you
shit.
can't build upon what are known accomplishments, we're never going to get past. We're never going to get to the moon if you're constantly asking whether we've made it or not. It's
We're
obvious
never going to
that we
get to the
have.
moon.
It's obvious that we have.
According to
These
you.
people, this according to me, this is according to science. This is according to all these. Do you think Firefly here came up with the maneuver to insert into lunar orbit? That was figured out in the 50s and 60s. Okay, they built upon what NASA has done. They didn't need to refigure that out. What they did need to do is figure out how to do it on a budget. NASA spent a ton of money back then, and I would hope that they spent a whole lot less money. I'd like to see them make things commercially viable. Well, is that a round Earth or is that an illusion? Geez. So again, I welcome challenging facts, but if you continually just turn down gold standard facts, then what do you really have? What ability do you have to figure out or build upon anything you say? Great.
The argument that I have.
We've levitated rocks. Great. How are we going to build upon that?
Tower catch.
You ask me a question and then talk over my answer. That isn't helping.
Go ahead.
You asked me a question. What was your question?
Now hovering as it aligns with
If you continue to go over gold standard facts, we're going to have a problem. My answer to that is the gold standard was not set as a gold standard. That is what you are told is a gold standard. We don't have a gold standard. Why don't we have a gold standard, Faz?
You don't need to be told what the gold standard of science is. All you need to do is just do science. Really.
And science has lost the evidence. I presented that evidence on this show from the NASA head, the head of NASA, saying we lost all the footage. We don't have the data any longer.
We lost some footage from one mission of going to the moon, and all. And now it's all the footage. We didn't lose it from Apollo 12 and 13 and 14 and 15.
I
and 16,
played it.
17.
I played it. I played it on the cast as evidence, and you said that's wrong.
Who say that?
So again,
we're going down conspiracy lane right now.
They are telling you.
Who say that
on video? They are telling you on video. We lost the footage. We lost all of the data.
No, we lost some data. That's what the guy said. Apollo 11.
That's what the guy said. The spokesperson,
not Apollo
the
12,
head
or 13,
of NASA,
or 14,
said we lost all the data. I played it right here on FazRadio.
So you know that you can go to NASA's website right now and see all the data from 12 and 13 and 14 and 15. Well, probably not all. There's probably some stuff that was missing. But the whole point is they've given you everything they have, and there's enough there to reproduce how to build and build a craft and fly to the moon. And again, why? Why are we debating this? This is 50 years later. 50 years later.
Because, again, every time I talk, you cut me off. If you have the data to show that it went to the moon, that's one thing. If you don't have the data that said we sent humans to the moon,
we do.
That's a separate argument.
We have data that humans went to the moon and that the unmanned spacecraft went to the moon. Russia went to the moon. Have you heard of Lunokhod? That was their moon rover. Okay, all sorts of
rover
countries have gone to the moon. India, Japan,
not humans.
And will be
not humans. No human has gone.
United
to
States
the moon.
Has sent what 16 humans to the moon. We have a
they
bunch of people
they're
all dying off of old age, but they've been there.
They say they've been there.
They can prove they've been there by showing you the evidence that they've reproduced. They have
What was
films of every
reproduced?
launch.
There's
have
one
films
set
of
of
every
evidence.
landing. They have
There's
they
one
have
set
telemetry
of
data.
evidence.
You're
It's
you're
not reproduced.
you're simply just asserting something opposite. I don't know where to go with this because you're just saying that it's wrong. That's it. You're just saying it. It's the evidence is overwhelming.
ChatGPT say that NASA has extensive data confirming that humans landed
Well,
on the moon.
ChatGPT was obviously engineered to lie. So
But
you
No.
can't believe that. You
can
can't
I
believe all the stuff on the NASA website, and you can't believe all the stuff reported since 1969.
can I
Can't re-
continue reading?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So, videos and audios and photographic evidence is there. Apollo 11 footage, while the original SSTV slow scan television tapes were erased. They lost their data. High quality videos and image of the moon landing exist. But they do have the data that humans land on the moon.
Well, Mr. Titan is saying all the data was lost, and I know a famous one which is high quality, which is cameras pointing down, and they're landing on the moon, and you see them going through all the steps of landing on the moon. What we lost is tapes of when we got on the moon. They climbed down the ladder, and that was broadcast to the world.
Yes,
and unfortunately,
it's
our
confirmed.
copies of that area, that part
It's-
where we were walking around on the moon for the first time,
It is
was lost.
confirmed. It is
We have a
confirmed by. It is
tons
confirmed
of
by NASA.
pictures.
Yeah,
We have
it is
tons of pictures.
confirmed. It is actually confirmed by
Yeah.
NASA that they lost some tapes.
Apollo
As
12,
far-
13,
no.
14, 15, 16, 17, we have high quality videos of them walking around, driving around, digging, all sorts of things on the moon. One was they dropped a wrench and a feather at the same time to show that they both hit the ground at the same time. All that exists. So no, I'm going to refuse to believe that anybody can say that they don't exist when I've seen them with my own eyes, when they're reproduced on servers all across the world, and the original, the original recordings exist. That's yeah, you have a point that some data was missed.
I can show you video in multiple sources by experts that show that Thor shoved his hammer down onto Earth and caused cataclysmic volcanic eruptions.
That's how he got
If
rid of the
I
ice
watch-
giants. Do you see any ice giants? He must have done it.
Right. What I'm trying to profess to you is I can show you video evidence of any goddamn thing on the that we can imagine.
Can you show me telemetry? Because I got telemetry. What do you got?
I can show you anything anyone can produce that shows those earthquakes took place. So obviously Thor's hammer did hit the earth at that point because an earthquake happened right after he did that.
So I think while you're trying very hard to assert that you
Faz,
haven't gone to the moon, companies will be making lots of money going to the moon.
people can show you evidence of anything if you believe they're the experts.
I think you're stuck
You
in
have
philosophy.
to believe that they're the
I think
experts.
you're stuck in philosophy, and you've left reality land. There's engineers and there's philosophers. Engineers actually do the work, and philosophers come up with the ideas of why we should do them or how. Well, the philosophers don't know how, but they come up with why and that we should do them. Engineers actually do them, and there are engineers that are going to the moon that are flying things to the moon. There are engineers that have designed spacecraft at SpaceX to land on the moon with humans in these spacecraft.
Okay, hang on. You're missing my point. Every time you miss my point.
Repeatedly. You
Yes.
can't win this one with philosophy. We're talking about nuts and bolts. These things happen.
Okay. So I'm not trying to talk about an issue here. I want to make that perfectly clear. Okay? Perfectly clear that I'm not talking about an issue. I'm talking about how you determine what evidence is. Okay? What I want to show you is my point about evidence that I keep pointing to, and you keep going off on specific issues. Let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
He's back to his floating rocks.
No.
I want to see that.
This is when a conspiracy assertion comes up.
I'm going to show you this. Because according to you, this is evidence. According to everybody else and you,
does your evidence check out?
It does.
Oh, it does.
I have on the screen.
Because Twitter said so?
I have on the screen the former medical director, the number one guy at the Cleveland Clinic, which we can all assume is an expert. Cleveland Clinic
on the moon.
No.
Okay.
I'm talking
you're
about
making a
evidence.
Okay.
No. And that's what I keep trying to tell you. I'm talking about your standard of evidence.
Reproducibility is a standard of evidence. I gave you an example of how to get to it, where you can start.
Right.
But I think you are building a straw man and you're beating the heck out of it.
I'm not. I'm talking. Faz, this whole discussion has been about me trying to pin you down.
I am so surprised we have 11 viewers after all. This has gone on for like 45 minutes now.
To pin you down on what the standard of evidence is.
Reproducibility.
Right.
This does not mean
reproducibility. This is reproducibility. And your expert, you
so reproducibility about men going to the moon
is... damn it, stop cutting me off.
Okay.
Your ability to say that NASA is the expert on the moon landings. I'm telling you that this evidence is experts from the Cleveland Clinic, the number one guy at the Cleveland Clinic, who is a very, very, very valuable and articulable expert in medicine, talking about how vaccines, especially the COVID vaccine, have hurt people more than it has helped people. And he's issuing an apology for causing the vaccines damage to people. Now, why I said take the focus off of the vaccines, take the focus off of the moon landings. You're saying that NASA is an expert. I'm saying the director of the Cleveland Clinic, who is world-renowned as a top medical advisor, if that person can tell you that vaccines caused harm, then your assertion that NASA landed on the moon is correct, then this person's assertion that vaccines cause harm is absolutely true. You cannot take and separate the two. It's the evidence and the authority that you're asserting is what counts. So I will assert to you that this happened. And if you're asserting that NASA says that we have data that says we landed on the moon, so that should be 100% evidence, I'm asserting that this doctor, the head of the Cleveland Clinic, asserts that vaccines cause more harm than good. You need to accept that, as well as accepting that NASA is the expert on landing on the moon.
I think you're trying very hard to come up with an example, any example that fits some sort of tangent around scientific rigor to disprove, or I think you're trying to use it in an absolute sense to disprove the whole concept of gathering evidence and having reproducibility be your gold standard. It is very possible for Dr. Neodes here to use science to come up with a differing opinion. It is also very possible for other people to use science and come up with another similar opinion. But it happens
Correct.
to be, hold on, I let you talk.
I'm agreeing with you.
It happens to be that the gold standard of what we have doesn't agree. Now, it might be, here's what I think. It might be that he has some ideas that aren't fully fleshed out. He might have a point. But what happens is when you have one expert that believes something one way and all the experts believe something in another way, the one that believes different, there's usually a change in context or criteria. That's what's going on when you use these examples of one person who stands out among the rest. Those are known as outliers in statistics, okay? When you have one person that stands out, that doesn't make them more credible. They could have a point, but there is an easy way for them to be right and the rest of, in this case, and the rest of the medical establishment to be right as well. It might be, you know, we would need to look at his studies side by side. What you're doing is, and you do this a lot, you're making an appeal to a title. You're saying because he was in charge of the Cleveland Clinic, and I'm going to throw that out as unimpeachable. Therefore, well, when you're comparing him to NASA, an institution that has many such experts, not just one, but many, 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 and they have worked together to produce, execute, and verify things repeatedly for over 50 years, I would have to say there's more evidence of men landing on the moon than there is of Dr. Neodes finding that vaccines cause autism. Could he have a point? Yes, he could, but we don't know why because it hasn't been verified enough. Now, do I accept that he was right because you gave two sources? No. What I do accept is that he could have a point. But I don't think that point is what you're throwing out. You're really trying to rely on his title as all the evidence you need. That's why you've thrown it out. You've thrown it out there. You're like, how can somebody who's in charge of the Cleveland Clinic be wrong? It doesn't matter.
How can
neither you and I actually have the credentials to be able to determine that. But what we can determine is that there's a lot of other people who have good science that's accepted by everyone around the world, that has enough reproducible fact to give metrics on vaccines and autism. You're willing to throw all that out because one guy stood up among all the others and said, "You're wrong."
It's the same as NASA. The authority. You're trying to break this down to your advantage. You're saying the authority is NASA. I'm saying the authority is the Cleveland Clinic.
To prove that NASA landed on the moon. And Demology says you're not going to believe NASA walked on the moon until you did it yourself. Okay. And even then, I said, I sincerely doubt that. The reason I doubt that is because if you doubt your ability to determine right from wrong or true from false, then you will not be able to build upon that. And when you get there, you will think that you're hallucinating. And I really think that you believe that you're coming up with things in the right way, but you cannot burn things down to absolutes and black and white when we talk about scientific rigor.
You're trying to do that. This isn't one guy.
I think you're more worried about losing a conversation than investigating facts.
This isn't one guy at the Cleveland Clinic going against everything. He brought the evidence from the Cleveland Clinic. to make this determination, which is multiple doctors, multiple studies, multiple minutia of everything that they've
And
that
it's
the Cleveland Clinic has.
The world has multiple upon multiples.
You just cut me off again. That the Cleveland Clinic has brought as a composite, and he brought all that evidence from the Cleveland Clinic to fruition, which is what you're asserting. NASA is bringing all the evidence of what NASA has determined over time into the conclusion that we landed on the moon. This guy is bringing all the data from the Cleveland Clinic and making the assertion that vaccines cause more harm than good. It's the exact same argument. Okay, you keep trying to break it down into one person versus NASA, and that's not the case.
Let's take a vaccine denier here. Okay, we have RFK Jr., who is now in charge of HHS, and he is a famous vaccine denier. And you know what his response was to the measles outbreak in Texas? He said people should really consider taking the vaccines because he knows that it's true, but what he doesn't want to do is he said, this must be a personal decision for everybody else. He knows it's true, but he doesn't want to go back on what he said. He doesn't want to look dumb. And here's what I think is going on with how you're talking about vaccines and autism and landing on the moon. I think you're worried about how you look. And I'm saying it doesn't matter how I look. You can remove me from the equation completely. You're still going to have overwhelming evidence that we landed on the moon, and you're going to have it that vaccines don't cause autism, or at least, I'll even throw you a bone. It's possible they could, but not anywhere near the level that, within light years of the level that people assert.
You've again broken this down, and you've done your own thing about a straw man argument. We're talking about high level evidence here. Your assertion is that everything at NASA points to something that says we landed on the moon. All this evidence at NASA shows
that we can verify this other ways.
They put
reflectors on the moon. You can fire a laser at the moon right now and get it reflected back.
That's a different argument. Hang on.
That's part of the argument. How did it get to the moon? Men put it there. We have video of men putting these reflectors on the moon.
Faz, your assertion was everybody at NASA, including employees, your words, say that we landed on the moon, so it must be true.
There's more than
my
just
assertion is that all this evidence at the Cleveland Clinic, high level, is saying that vaccines cause more harm than good.
There's more than just
so it's the same argument. It's the same argument, but you're breaking it down, trying to break down that argument to individual things. Let's compare empirical evidence to empirical evidence. Empirical evidence of landing a human, not a probe, not a mirror, not anything. This is where you keep breaking it off to try to make your argument better, which is a straw man.
Vaccines cause more harm than good. In fact, the Cleveland Clinic is a strong advocate for vaccines and emphasizes their safety, effectiveness, and importance in preventing disease. So ChatGPT is telling me right here that the Cleveland Clinic does not assert these things. But
that is their statement.
But what you're telling me is that one person who was in charge of the Cleveland Clinic, because they believe this way, all of a sudden, all the evidence that the Cleveland Clinic has provided all this evidence. This man has provided evidence.
Common sense.
And here I'm talking about more than just NASA is asserting that we went to the moon. This is easily verifiable. I don't
breaking it down.
I don't think this conversation is getting anywhere because I think you really want to find a way to somehow win. And
I'm not.
You can't.
I'm trying to get you to a standard. I'm trying to force you into a corner, Faz.
Reproducibility.
And I said that earlier. I'm trying to force you into a standard of evidence that's on the same level.
Reproducibility means that you can document something that people can follow those instructions
It has
and be able to do that thing. It does not mean that you can just photocopy those instructions and say that that is what's true. It means you can actually execute the instructions.
What you just said is the Cleveland Clinic statement is that it's not true. That's a statement. That's out here. This doctor has conglomerated all the evidence at Cleveland Clinic and has made that determination. It doesn't matter what the Cleveland Clinic says. He has, if you watch the video, he puts evidence in there of all the aggregate data inside the Cleveland Clinic and has come to this determination. Your assertion, Faz, your assertion is that all the evidence at NASA points to this as a result. That's what I'm trying to compare to you. I'm not talking about what people say.
Is more
I'm
than
talking
just NASA.
about
my assertion
where
is more than
evidence
just
is
NASA.
gathered.
If you want to isolate it to that, you still look dumb. I mean, okay, if you want to say that just NASA said that, yeah, but so many other people did as well. The Russians knew what we were doing. They were tracking our ships. They were using telescopes. They saw what we were doing. They wanted to do it themselves. They just ran out of money. So I was looking this up here. Dr. Neody's view on vaccine safety, particularly his concerns about preservatives and the number of vaccines administered, have been supported primarily by groups and individuals skeptical of vaccine policies. Okay, he has a fringe theory, and he might have a point about preservatives and so on. But the problem is, a lot of this stuff, vaccines in particular, have been tested innumerable millions of different ways since the 50s. He might have a point, but vaccines work, and they don't.
We're not talking about vaccines. We're talking about evidence,
as he's asserting. So
you're asserting that the evidence, all the conglomerate data of NASA, is proof. I'm asserting that all the comparative data at
I'm
Cleveland
asserting
Clinic,
that more than just NASA's conglomerated stuff. I'm asserting that people with telescopes, people that watch our space station go around the Earth, you can see it right now.
That's a different argument.
There's all sorts of things that will prove that they have launched things into space and that men have gone to the moon. I'm asserting more than NASA.
No. You're asserting that
I like how you're telling me more about what I'm saying than what I'm saying, because if I tried that to you, if I said what you were asserting, you would say, "Don't put words in my mouth." And I'm trying to tell you, it's
you're
more
making
than NASA.
two arguments. You're making two different arguments.
We had. What's that mean? Did you say something? The balloons?
No, people like it. That's when they put the balloons up, is people understand.
On just your side.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that you're asserting two different arguments in this discussion. You're talking about humans on the moon over here, and you're talking about things going to the moon over here. And you're pushing them together as though they're one. I'm not arguing with you that things have gone to the moon. We'll assume that.
So I don't have a problem with that. We were talking very specifically about men going to the moon, and
we're talking about evidence.
It kind of doesn't matter after 45. I think this is an hour now that we've been literally talking about you trying to find a way to prove wrong the concept of reproducibility.
No, I'm trying to pin you down on what evidence is. I've been doing that for an hour.
Evidence is reproducibility. If you can reproduce something, that's perfect evidence. Now, there are other standards of evidence. There's crappy evidence. Like if 3 of your friends tell you that you're an asshole, you might just be an asshole. Or if there's other sorts of evidence, like, if 3 of your friends say it's cold outside, it's probably cold outside. But it's possible that they just have better tolerance for cold than you. There's some things that have been left out. I get it. I get it that you're trying really hard to to somehow quote me to prove me wrong when it's obvious.
I'm not trying to
that
prove you wrong. I'm
reproducibility is
trying.
how science works. It's how we know people went to the moon. It's how we know machines went to the moon. It's how we know that the Earth is round. It's all these things. I don't think we're going to get anywhere on this, really. I mean,
We're
I
not.
think we
We're not,
we need to hang
because
this
you
one
won't
up.
argue one argument. You're
I'm-
arguing
I
five
think
arguments.
we need to hang this one up. I think we finally gotten to the point where it's. I'm so surprised that we have 12 people listening to this right now. We have 8 people on X. We have 3 people on YouTube. We have 1 person on what do you call it? Twitch, that find this stalemate of a conversation interesting. This isn't a question. We know this. No matter if I could make the worst point in the world, I can explain it wrong. I could contradict myself. It's not going to change what's fact. It's not going to change the fact that men have been on the moon. We've left things behind. The bottom descent stage of what, 5 landers? They're all there. Astronauts even put pictures on the moon of their families. Of course, they're probably all bleached out by the sun by now. But the whole point is, we've left ample evidence. And don't worry, we're going back to the moon. We have a couple companies right now that are going back to the moon. We have SpaceX that's going back to the moon. This is going to be just regular everyday news, and we can stop arguing about this because we shouldn't be. I'm waiting until when we can start talking about neat things, what this means. Oh my God, what wonderful things can happen when men are on the moon. Our society is now more resilient.
What wonderful things can happen when you just accept that Jesus lived?
Who cares? That's totally.
Do you see my point?
That's totally left field. It doesn't matter.
It's not. It's Faz, you're trying to argue with me about whether or not we landed humans on the moon. And I'm trying to argue with you that your definition of evidence changes depending on what you believe.
Okay. So if that's the case, what then do you use to find out that men landed on the moon? Let's get past this. Let's get past what you think of. Let's just say that I'm wrong about everything that I'm saying. What evidence do you use to find out that we've been there? Men have landed. July 20th, 1969.
Right. So there's a plethora of things that you can look at to determine for yourself whether or not you believe that a person landed on the moon.
Whether or not I believe, what about whether somebody actually has?
You asked me a question, let me answer
I want to know what you determine.
I look at everything that's out there, and then I choose what I choose to believe of all of that evidence, pro and con, what happened, and I make that determination for myself. What I'm trying to get across to you is that you keep asserting that NASA is the authority, and because they said we did, it's a given.
Let's assume that I'm wrong. Let's assume that I'm wrong. Okay, I'm 100% wrong. What do you use? You just said that you pick and choose.
I did.
Okay. By what standard?
I look at all the.
Okay. By what standard?
There's no standard.
What are you applying to all
look
the
at
stuff you're looking
everything that's out there.
What are you applying?
I look at everything that's out there.
How do you determine?
That's the determination. Everything that's out there. And I look at it and I say, this makes sense here. This makes sense here. Oh, well, wait.
What is your criteria for something making sense?
This makes sense here.
What's
common sense.
Which
we look at it. We look at it.
How are you defining that? Empirical
say,
evidence? That's how I would.
Right. But your empirical evidence is NASA saying so. I don't buy that.
We've moved on past my own credibility. I'm asking about yours.
I just told you 4 times.
You just look.
I just look at it. Look at everything that's out there. The
look at it.
The cons.
Can we isolate it to just look at it?
Yes.
Okay. So, Faz, reproducibility. Titan, Just look at it. How did you,
Reap-
Mr. Zorro? How
This
have
is
you
this
even
is where we
stayed?
argue too.
How have you even
Because
stayed through this conversation, Mr. Zorro? I'm just curious. How have you not left by this point?
I was thinking about it.
Well,
Sure.
I want to give you the last judgment on
Well,
all this.
eh,
Not that you need to even say that Titan is Titan is. Are you starting to make us question your common sense?
it's
But
just
Mr. Zorro,
it's just
tell me what you think about just this last hour.
well, what I think is first of all, for me, this is my personal opinion. Is for me, it's good sometimes to listen people, and actually really pay attention to what everyone say. And in one way, I mean, I understand Titan the way that he look for information, and yeah, if we it would if he's talking about this guy that actually did all this research and went and did all collect all this information and prove something. Hey, well, is evidence there that this guy proved something. Okay, that's it. But we're talking two different things. One thing that I always say in my life is we cannot compare apples to peaches. It's just that's the way I see this conversation. Uh, in the other hand, I understand the fast method is if you have something out there, you use science and you prove and you have facts and you can reproduce something over and over again. That's the way that science works. Yes, we test things, we prove things, we go back to the drawing board, and we go to the table and we make things happen, and we make tests. But we cannot base everything. We cannot compare everything, all the information based on science. There will be some information that is only uh, um, logistics, and that's it, and information of in general, and there will be science as well. you know that's the take that I have from this conversation. Not everything has to be proved and tested by science, uh, pretty much. And I think it's two different topics. That's what I see here, pretty much. Now, there is no who's right or wrong. It's just it's different information that we putting out there to the viewers, to the people, and it is good. And I see this, I'm glad this happening because we learn something every day from people, you know, and that's interesting. And everybody have a different ways to think, to use their common sense. Um, that's what I see, and at some point, what humans create, at some point, everything is real. Every information, every video that we can see there, at some point, have some sort of reasonable information, and that's it. If I cannot share my personal opinion of about this guy that Titan presented here in this video, because I don't know nothing about that guy. I don't even know who is that doctor. In my common sense, I will go ahead first and investigate, and I will pay attention to that video, and then I will do my own research about that guy. But that's me. That's the way I am. You know, that's the way I go through stuff every day when I read the news or I see a video from a person uh, talking about something. You know, that's what I will recommend to all the people that watch this show to do the same thing. Because we're not expert in everything. Just to say it, I can see the videos from the NASA, the blue ghost landing on the moon. Perfect. Yeah, there is proof of from then. But in my own opinion, I will go ahead and do more research and start reading. So that's what I normally recommend to people. Besides of whatever you see in the internet, always go out there and do your own research. And based on that, you can have your own personal opinion. I respect everybody's opinion, but at the end of the day, um, it's good to do some research always.
Do you think that doing your own research is a concept that scales well? Do you know what I mean by scaling?
Yes,
Okay.
I don't know actually. I have to. I'm a
Um,
guy. I'm a guy that I have to go and
so do your
see
own
out there
research.
and do the research first, and then I
Do
can
your own
give
research,
you.
I think works well for crypto because nope, I don't think anybody debates whether crypto is true. I think people debate whether crypto is useful or 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 uh, or going to live up to its promise. And the do your own research comes to, well, look at these companies, look at what they're doing, and make your own bets if you want to invest wisely. Um, so that's what I think of when I hear do your own research, but that's not something that scales well to millions of people. So I do find it valid in an individual way, but I have a hard time. Um, well, I can see why people don't want to build on crypto. A lot of people don't want to build on crypto because they hear do your own research and they just want something to build on top of. What's there? And then
Mm,
who gets built on is the people who produced. Ethereum is built upon because it has APIs and it has acceptance. XRP is being built upon slowly, but it's for a long time it wasn't. So those early movers have gotten actual things out there that can be used. There's no arguing about whether they're technically correct. They just want to know is it going to be popular? Is it going to be useful? And are people going to use it?
mm,
So
I understand that point. Yes, you are correct on that one, and I think it's fair. But that involve a lot of stuff from human beings and from people. Just people is lazy in today's days. People just want to be told uh, what is true or not, or what would be the possibility of something that's going to work, or if crypto is going to work, yes or no. People are just being lazy. That's reality. That's another stuff. um
investors are always doing their own research.
right, investor, the developers, the people, the science is the one that do the research, and then they find out the truth about something, and they'll go ahead and go and say, well, if proven by science, we did more to a thousand tests about crypto, and we prove that it works, and it can give you this, and it have a function in the economy. It will do these uh,
If people will adopt it,
thing,
it could be
and
wonderful.
I would be, and I'm happy that we have people like that. You know, people that invest that time, and developers that put that time to
And in the
actually
case of crypto,
to
most
actually
people are the doubters in this case.
right,
Most people are.
right, to actually reproduce something. Those developers, right? So that's actually very true. What you mentioned is that science, I think part of the science is created actually because there's people out there that actually wants to find out something, that wants to prove something, and they start with their own questions. Is this is gonna work, yes or no? Well, let me take the lead and actually start doing the test. you know Now that compared to the users, I call people users, uh, that they just want to hear it works, yes or no. I mean, you are the expert. That's another type of people. It's just people that they want things easy. That's it. There's no reason to find out. Well, I'm not gonna spend my lifetime looking for if crypto is gonna work or not. Yeah, I will leave that to the developers. Thank God we have developers in the world. We have science, because science has been proved a lot of stuff over the years, over the decades. You know, it is
Well,
true.
I'd like to find a way to bring this to a close because we've been on for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And also I want to make sure that Zorro had was allowed to say something in between all of our arguing back and forth. But I think it sounds like before we go, I think we should probably give Mr. Titan the last word so we can get out of here and people feel like they've been able to summarize things to some degree.
My last word is arguing sucks, right, for everybody. But at the same time, I enjoy having these conversations because, as Zorro has said, and I've iterated, I can't even tell you how many dozens of times, that the important part is getting the information of multiple sources out to people so they can decide what they want for themselves. There's going to be people that will deny this and other people that will empirically believe this. But when they're able to open their mind and take in all the information from all the sides, that's what's going to make you you and give you your individuality. And when this cast ends, me and Zorro and me and Faz and Zorro and Faz and me, we're all going to be okay. We want to bring this information to you on these sides. Sometimes we agree. 2 shows ago, I was agreeing with everything Faz said, and he was shocked. But this one, we didn't. And that's okay. We can have differing opinions. But for people who are listening, take that information and make your own determination. I think that's awesome.
I would like at some point to be able to move past individuals deciding for themselves, but I would at some point like to talk about this. This is why I talked about the economy and tariffs and how we build upon things. It's one thing for us to feel like we're not free to come up with our own conclusions. It's another thing to not be able to build on them. And I don't think that I've spent very much time telling Mr. Titan that I feel that he's wrong, but I certainly have been trying to throw out enough evidence that I think that he is. In the end, that doesn't matter when we talk about higher level stuff, how society is going to build upon these assertions. My logic doesn't matter. Zorro's logic doesn't matter. If it can be done, it will. And that, well, to pull back at the beginning of this cast, I was saying, look, if people can find a way to make money through all the rules that are there by redefining things or skirting around it and finding loopholes, they will. That's something I want to stop thinking for yourself.
I was clicking at the same point.
I want
I was doing the same thing
in future casts to find ways that we can build upon the things that we already know, rather than argue about minutia on different things. Because it's arguing about the minutia is not going to move us forward. Arguing about minutia is why people don't like our different races. why they don't like our sexual choices, and they don't like our sexual realities. So yeah, I threw that in there. And this minutia is slowing us down. We need to move forward. And we don't, you know what? I used to, when I got my first car, I used to want to know how the car worked, and I wanted to know how to operate it and work on it, and pull out parts and put in new parts and change the oil and change tires and stuff like that. Now I don't give a flying fuck. I need the car to do things for me. I can let other people take care of the minutia because I know that it works. I don't worry about whether one type of engine's more powerful than another because I just need an engine. That's what I'm hoping that we can talk about on this show is, okay, based on what we know is true, where can we take this? And so I was going to give you the last word, but then I just had that. So I'm going to hit this button. Oh, no, not this button yet, because I got to, not that. No, where's it at?
Do you know what you're doing?
Yep.